Hello, ladies and gentlemen who are joining me on today's Hobby Hangout stream. I am Angela, you're watching Hobby Night, and today I am going to be painting some lovely orcs, and I have them on their backs because I realized that after I primed them upstairs earlier that I actually didn't get like the underside of them, and I'm going to start with their pants just like I did in my video where I worked on the Kromlech orc already. And I can't do that until I prime that. So we're gonna be starting with Wraithbone. But while we get started on the priming and just kind of get that set up, let me just welcome everybody to the stream. Please let me know in the comments what you guys, or in the chat rather, what you guys are working on today, if you're working on anything, or if you're just here to hang out or lurk, that is also welcome. You can just enjoy while I ramble and paint. Oh, I also do have a short story, but I'm going to, that just happened literally just before I started switching over to the face cam and everything, but I'm gonna let a few more people get in before I get into that. It won't take too long. But yeah, I just want to talk about that because it made me a little sad. It was a little bit of a thing, but it's fixable. What I'm hinting at possibly is that I may have broke something, and that is okay.
Yes, you have.
Oh no.
Let's see.
What did I do?
There we go.
There we go. So sorry, everybody. I apparently continue to click a button weirdly and not have chat show up. But I'm glad that everything is fine. Okay, this is good. Now the chat is working. It does seem fun. Yeah, no, you didn't know Kromlech did orcs? Oh man. Yeah, no, Kromlech does orcs. They actually, that's actually what I know them predominantly for, is for their orc stuff, because I've bought some of their bits, both as a consumer and also as somebody who used to work in a game store and got special requests for things. So I'm actually quite familiar with Kromlech with their orcs, but yeah, they make great orcs. They just had a recent October sale. I think it's over now and everything, but the stuff is still available. I just don't think they're doing like as good of a deal on it or anything, but it was a new launch of a bunch of new orc things, and some of them were these little boys here who I am painting. Okay, before we go further, let me tell you about the tragedy that happened just before I started. So I was pressing this boy, you can see him, onto his base so that he could be, you know, I could paint his butt. And then he has this wonderful little pipe that was sticking off of his mouth right here. You can kind of see where the discoloration is, where my primer no longer is. Yeah, I just like snapped his little pipe in half. So I'm gonna repair that later. We're not gonna work on him today, but we'll work on the other three. But yeah, I was really sad that I did that right before. I was like, oh, I need to turn them on their side. Let me just do that. Snap. It was a very audible snap. And then I felt my like finger shift like right as it happened. It was tragic. But let's get these undersides painted with a little bit of Wraithbone, because that's what I primed them in, so that I can work on their pants. I'm gonna go with a variety of different colors this time. As much as I am very biased towards Stormfiend as my go-to jeans color tone, I do want to have a little bit of variety on my little orcs here. And I'm thinking that for one of them or two of them, I might go with an aggro Stoon to give more of a khaki pant look. And then for like one of them at least, I want to do my old recipe for jeans, which I used to use ultramarine blue because frankly it looked more like jean color to me than anything else. It definitely didn't feel ultramarine enough. I don't know about you guys. There's so much fun things about painting greenskins. Like, they're honestly one of my favorite factions to paint. Followed probably only, like, they follow Death Guard just because Death Guard are my boys and I will always love painting them. But I like both armies for very similar reasons, in that they have a lot of flexibility with what you can do. If you want to go with a little bit of a brighter, more cartoony color scheme, which I personally really love, you definitely can on orcs. I think a little bit more quote unquote safely, just because, you know, they are meant to be bold and rambunctious and loud, and I think those colors just fit the orcs really, really well. I'm realizing that because I didn't do the underside, I think I missed the underside of this gun too, so I'm just gonna hit that with a little bit of Wraithbone and we'll move on to the next one and do the same thing. Get a little bit of a repeat process here. I'm trying to get better about actually painting in batches. I don't know about you guys, but I normally, like, I'm a weirdo and I like painting one model at a time. It's super slow, and I end up spending like way too much time on a single just like troop because of it. But I just sometimes have a really hard time batch painting, and I don't know what it is. I think it's mostly just that I am ready to move on to the next color. Like maybe that's just what it is I get like very easily bored of using one color over and over again, and so I just want to move on. But I'm hoping that with like these bright greens and stuff, like these colors I really love, it'll be fine. Although we're not using the greens yet. Like I said, I'm gonna try working on their pants. All right, I'm gonna do that single coat and then we'll come back in and see if we need another one. A little bit there too for his flesh later. Oh, let me know how you guys are liking the music that we added. Put a little bit of a soundtrack in there for you guys to jive to while I paint, especially for if I end up getting really focused and not talking for a little minute. So let me know how you guys are liking it. I know, I should paint some Imperial Guard at some point. Honestly, I need to get that new box. I can't remember if it's out. I think it might be, or went up for pre-order, the new Cadia Stands box. But I am interested in that one because I do kind of want to paint some Cadians. I really liked when I painted the Gaunt's Ghost character. I don't even remember now which one that I painted because I've not read those books, unfortunately. I need to. There's a lot of things I need to read, I'll admit, in the 40k verse. But I just go to all the lore YouTube channels and figure it out there. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about him. Let's move on. One thing I like about these, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Redgrass Games like painting handles, but they have these swappable tops. So you can just use one handle and it's pretty ergonomic. I like it a lot. Oh, small plug by the way, just because we are painting some Kromlech orcs. If you want to get some orcs or any of Kromlech's other products from bitsofwar.com, feel free to use my affiliates link that I've left in the description of this stream and video for those that are watching this later on YouTube. If you use the code that is there in the description as well, you can save 5% on your purchase, and you know, it helps the channel. So if you do, that would be lovely. If not, still go check them out. They've got some like great stuff to look at, and I would really recommend like just peeking at what they have, because not only do they have orcs, but they have a variety of other things. I think they've got some like Blood Bowl stuff going right now, like some new Blood Bowl stuff. I think I haven't double checked yet, but I love Blood Bowl, and I need to look more at some of their armies and what they do for expanding them out, because I really want to finish my Skaven. I want to see if they have some alternate Skaven that I could bring in just to add a little bit more variety to the team. I just love those little buggers, they're so cute. Okay, cool. It's one of those ones that has the 2-week pre-order. I wasn't sure if that's what I had seen online, was that it was still up for pre-order or if it had just released. But I think you're right. I think it must have been that I saw that it was up for pre-order still. You know, I just realized it's kind of weird to me, and I don't remember when the Sister of Battle came out. Maybe it was around the same time, but it's kind of weird to me that they would have the Cadia Stands box and the Votann box so closely tied to when they're going to be releasing those holiday boxes, because I think those go up for pre-order as well very soon. I mean, they certainly would want to if they want to hit the holiday rush and everything. And it's sort of weird that they are overlapping them so heavily. Or was it just that the ad had the Votann box in it? Because I know there's a Votann set. It might just be like a branding, not branding, but like the box is relabeled for that. I don't really know. I'm like now really paranoid that my chat is going to break again. So if you see me like wildly suddenly glance over in the opposite direction from the camera, it's because I'm checking to make sure that I still see stuff happening and that the window is still there, because I don't know what I'm clicking sometimes, but I wish I would stop so that I stop breaking things. he's looking pretty good, I think. Let me get the loincloth a little bit more. There's so much detail on these little guys. My one, I guess, like, criticism, it's not even really a, I guess, yeah, it's a criticism. My one criticism is that if you fully assemble the models, like I like to do, they're very dense. Like, they're a very dense, close-in thing. Like, they've got so many great details, which is cool, but it's all very on top of itself, which ultimately ends up looking cool, because I actually brought the one that I painted for an episode on the channel in just to inspire myself to remember, one, exactly what I actually did, and two, just to give myself a little bit of a color guidance of, you know, which browns did I use, that kind of thing. Yeah, they're just very dense. Like, he's got a lot going on, great detail, but super, super dense to paint. And that's why I'm starting with their undersides, because otherwise I just feel like it's gonna be a pain in the butt. He's looking good. Who haven't we? We've done you, so it's this guy. Now, this guy actually kind of looked like I got the underside of him a little bit better than some of the others. Maybe I guess he's a little bit more open. That's probably why. But just to be safe, so that we make sure our paint actually sticks, because I have had that happen before. I don't know about you guys, but I have had, like, I've been painting, and then suddenly my contrast paint just weirdly, like, peels back from a surface that looks like it was primed. It was on, I think I was working specifically on a Underworld set of some variety, and the plastic was a similar light blue-gray, light gray sear. And so when I put gray sear on it, it just looked like it was kind of an unprimed miniature, which was very hard to tell that I had missed an area. And that's why my paint wasn't sticking suddenly. And so I just want to avoid that this time, because it sucks. Sometimes, because of how many lovely, nice details these models have, the primer doesn't always go everywhere like you'd hope. I'm also a total wimp when it comes to priming, because I am so worried about over priming, because I've done that. I used to do that so much when I was first getting into painting back in college. I overprimed the crap out of some of my Marines. It was so sad. Like, I look back at them and I go, oh, no, Angela, why did you do that? Pass, Angela, why were you dumb? Did no one tell you to hold the can further away from the model? The answer was no. No one had told me that specifically, and if they had, I ignored them. Because I thought, I'm an art student, I know what the hell I'm doing. I don't need advice. I really wish I hadn't done that, because then I would have ruined so many models. I definitely had to replace some models because I totally just borked them. And I think I threw them away. I think I threw the really bad ones away. I don't think I have any of them left, because I didn't want to bother trying cleaning it up. I've never done that before, and I just really didn't want to. Happy Tuesday. Welcome, everybody who's just joining us. Yeah, even with I have my airbrush, and I've used it a little bit to do some priming, but I haven't gotten fully that's how I prime now with it yet. Mostly because I haven't got a full place where I want to set it up, because I don't want to keep having to do it outside or near an open door or anything like that. So I actually want to put it in that corner that you can see behind me. But I need to get a table and everything, because I have a nice window next to it where I could have it bent to. And then I'll probably end up priming more with the airbrush, and I do wonder if I'll miss less. I mean, I still figure I'll always end up having to hand prime a little bit, because inevitably there's some angle that the paint's just not going to get to without just completely oversaturating where you've already painted, right? All right, I think these are looking pretty good. I don't even think I really need to do another coat. I did get some, I just didn't get all of it. And if I'm wrong, we'll just go back over it and do one more coat. But I think I'm gonna start with the, who is this? This is the boy with the eye patch. Okay, you're gonna get the just normal ultramarine blue. Get this shook up. Hope everybody is staying hydrated in chat. Drinking lots of water. I've been trying to be better about that. I drink a ton of soda normally, but I've been trying to be a lot better and be a little healthier because I know that it's full of sugar and I'm gonna be good over time. All right, so this is very thick, so we want to thin the ultramarine blue down because yeah, some contrast paints are very, very thick. And whereas other ones are way more watery, like Aethermatic Blue, I feel like is a much more like fluid contrast paint than say Ultramarine. I'm so terrified to use this color. It's been so long. All right, can you guys see all right? I think you can. Cool, it's turning out how I wanted. I'm not noticing any pull away, which is good, I think. Go. For those of you that ever wonder, like, am I really using these giant brushes for these tight areas? Yes. Yes, I do. Because if you get a good brush, even at a larger size, if they keep their tips, you can really get some great control. And while, yeah, you might get a little bit of overflow and you might need to do a tiny bit of cleanup sometimes, it's usually way less than you'd really anticipate based off of just the scale of the brush. So don't be afraid to use a larger brush, especially because often then the handles are also bigger. And if you're anything like me where you cramp a lot, like especially over long periods of time, you will have less of that because you're not having to grip such a tiny handle. Just my tip of the day. Is that, no, that's part of the boot. Okay. I'm gonna concentrate for a second while I paint the interior of this leg. I do sometimes regret putting the arms on these guys. That's a nice patch there. Okay, I'll do that in a different color. I have to clean that up. I think I might have painted some of it, but there's a nice little patch on his pants. And I'm gonna see if I can do that in like, I decided if I'm gonna do it in another blue or if I'm gonna do it in a brown, but I might do it in a brown. I kind of like the contrast idea. Ooh, I might do it in red. Might do it in a red tone, that way I can like really contrast. All right, we do need to get though, because that's normal paint. Nope, 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 he's slipping. Okay. Sometimes the putty just doesn't hold. And this is not the Redgrass Games putty. This is just like some other putty that I have. It just sometimes doesn't hold. All right, I think I got all of it. Maybe there's a little bit there. Yeah. All right, there we go. I think that's looking pretty good. You guys ever find these like weird sort of like diapery looking parts of the undersides of minis to just be super awkward? Because they make them a little bit more like square, bulky than I feel like sometimes they need to be. And I feel like that's entirely just because of like, I mean, well, they're orcs, they don't really have genitalia, right? That's part of the problem. But you would think that'd make it easier to sculpt it. Just make it smoother and flatter. Like, don't give it a weird, like, it's got a weird lump. I don't know why. I don't know why. Explain it to me. Hello, everybody. It is good to see you. I'm gonna check on chat while I let that dry for a moment, so do forgive me. As I see, we've actually had some comments come in. Oh yeah, definitely stick with water. I agree with Samir. Definitely stick with water. It's better for you. Although I will probably have some caffeine later. No, actually, nope, I already had my soda for the day. I limit myself to one. That's the rule I made for myself because I was getting really bad about it. And now it's just water for the rest of the day. And I have like juice and stuff, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. All right, let's swap to a different lad while this guy dries. I think for this boy, you are also my other eye patch guy. I'm gonna give you... Okay, do you guys think we should give the guy with the pirate captain's hat? I guess this will be the first mate. So this is the first mate. Do you think we should give the first mate brown pants or the other blue pants? I'm gonna give him actually the brown pants. I made the decision for myself because my captain has the brighter blue pants. So we're gonna give both of these boys brown pants, and then the other guy who I'm not painting today, he'll get the other brighter blue pants. Or he might just get some of the darker blue, and maybe the captain will be the only one that gets the bright blue because he's like, hey, I'm the captain, I should have the brightest, bluest pants. And so he just stole them. Yep, that's my story now, and we're gonna stick with it. So let's go ahead and get our aggro student shook up. Nice rattle. I really like to make sure that they're shook well, even though they are way more fluid and don't need quite nearly the same amount of shaking that a standard, like, you know, Wraithbone pot or Army Painter, Vallejo, whatever, needs. It's still pretty vital because even with these ones that don't separate quite as much, there's still a, like, difference in quality if you don't shake them really thoroughly between like how the pigment ends up laying down and how it flows. So just be mindful of that when you're painting. I try to be mindful of it. I've had too many points like early on when I was using contrast paint where I just completely just had some really bad experiences, and it was predominantly because I was like, oh, this is super fluid feeling already. I'm not gonna really shake. I'm gonna do like this and be done with it, and the pigments just were not emulsified with the actual like medium in there, and it gave me some weird effects. I actually think that's partially why I really disliked especially ultramarine blue in the early days, is because I just don't think I was shaking it enough, and it is one of the ones that has that white filmy material at the bottom of it if it's been just sitting there for a while, and so it just really... What's happening there? I just had some really weird pooling. It was making it look very gray. That was very odd. DACA indeed. The strange lump is where the DACA comes from. I'm not so sure. But maybe. I mean, who knows? It's orc logic, right? Have you guys seen, you guys watch me play Shoot His Blood and Teeth, or have you guys played it yourself? Like, I thought it was such a charming little game. Definitely properly orky. And had plenty of squigs, which were really cute. I would love to see them expand it more because I really feel like there's some missed opportunities in that game for collectibles. I talked about this a little bit on the stream, but the orcs have got me thinking about it. Of just like, there were so many little places where you could kind of go into, and there was nothing in there. And I was really comparing it very heavily to the TMNT game that recently came out, Shredder's Revenge, I think it is. And that game had like a butt ton of collectibles. And I don't see how they're, between all of the really cute little art pieces and just stuff amongst all of the like scenery, why they couldn't make some of that stuff that the orcs would want to loot. I feel like it makes sense. Oh, I forgot this guy had a starfish on his knee. Ah, oh, so good. There's so many of them that have little like barnacles stuck to them, and it's very charming. Because it kind of reminds me of the undead pirates from Pirates of the Caribbean, which in my opinion are the only good part movies. But I think that's just because I knew too many people who were really obsessed with them, and it kind of killed any enjoyment for me for that film. It really, really did. But I do like the undead pirates. Barbossa was cool. I liked him. But yeah, back to blood, shoot with blood and teeth. Yes, that's what its name is. I always get it confused. Like, I always want to say it like blood, shooters and teeth, or teeth. You don't want to put teeth first, and it's not first. It's shoota. It's a shoota. How clever. I'm being way more sloppy with this one, but this is a tan color tone, and so it's going to be really easy to mask over, and I'm not even that concerned because frankly it can just end up being a little bit of dirtiness on the other objects, especially his like boots and stuff. So sometimes when you're painting, if you've got like overspill of paler colors especially, or browns, and you know that's gonna go over another brown, you don't have to be super conscious of fully immaculately cleaning it up. I say that, and sometimes I still go that far because I just get really anal about it. But in theory, you really don't. And I've been trying to be better about it because it's a time saver. Because otherwise, you just sink a bunch of time into delicately dabbing a minimal amount of color away, and it's really just not worth your time. I feel like. Do your pants go slightly above your? Yes, they do. Annoying. All right, well, we got to get a little bit of the pants above, and then hopefully we don't mess that up too much when we do his flesh later, but I think it'll be okay. Do I have everything? There's this like random little area there. I think that's looking good. A little bit there. What do you guys, are you guys seeing anything obvious? I'm not seeing anything obvious. Okay, I think I've got that pretty well. So he's good. And I decided to do this guy with the same color. So we'll just swap over and continue using our paint, although I do want a little bit more. Oop. There we go. Still want to thin it down a little bit, even though it's a little bit more fluid than say even the ultramarine blue. You always want to thin your paints a bit. A lesson well learned. I do love just the immediate effect of this color over top the model. Just seeing it flow into all the crevices and everything is just so pleasing. Near UC Berkeley, Spartan 2 Paintball. I would say the best game store near UC Berkeley is definitely Games of Berkeley. If you have not checked them out, I would highly recommend it. They're on Durant, just off of Telegraph Avenue, and they have a massive selection. They are running events currently. I don't know what their mask policy is still or not, but you can definitely find that out on their website or just when you visit. But like they have great stuff. I am very biased in saying that because I did used to work for them. I was their buyer for about 3 years. And then I only left when I actually took YouTube full time. But yeah, I love that place. I go back when I can. They have a great Warhammer and miniature selection. They have a great RPG selection. And if you are looking for board games, they have plenty of board games. They also have a massive selection of like RPG dice and accessories. Puzzles also, if you're just into puzzles, like jigsaw puzzles. They also have a very large selection of that within the Bay Area as well. And they do have like some toys and stuff too, but they are predominantly a game store. Yeah, definitely check them out. Definitely check them out. like they have great stuff over at Kromlech. I really do like their stuff. I was really excited when they reached out to me. We're like, hey, do you want like some of our orc stuff? I was like, yes, I love orcs. And they sent me way more than I was anticipating. And yeah, I just was like super pleased, loved it. And they were like, hey, you want to be an affiliate? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll help sell your stuff. So yeah, please use my link, go buy stuff. It supports me. And then you get cool things at a discount with some great minis to paint. Shill, shill, shill. That's what I'm doing right now. It is the YouTuber way. But genuinely, like, I would really encourage you to go take a look at their products. Even if you don't want to pick anything up, like, anytime soon or ever, like, just take a look at it. Because, like, they've got some great stuff. I haven't built it yet. But they actually sent me the giant ship that they had for their October sale. It is terrifyingly large. And I don't know, like, I definitely need to use the airbrush on it. But it's one of those, like, it's one of the things that I'm thinking about for a more long-term project next year. So if you're interested in that, let me know in chat, and then tell me also in the comments below if you're watching this later on YouTube. Which I know is weird to say because technically the stream is through YouTube, but like it ends up on the channel just as a video afterwards, like immediately, which is really great. So if you do miss it, don't worry. You can catch it almost immediately. Or whenever is convenient for you, because it'll be there very shortly after the stream is even over. All right, I think we've got, I'm gonna actually pop him off real quick. Yep. I think we need to paint a little bit in between these bags. And if we can, just kind of dab in there. Make it look like his pants go all the way up to his shirt. Because they kind of do. Yeah, that's looking good. Now, sometimes with these lighter color tones, especially, we're gonna let him dry a little bit more, but this is really pale. Whoa, let me go. Sorry, there we go. Sorry, everybody good? Everybody can see? So it's really kind of mellowed out into some of, like, or it's not pulled into the recesses quite as much as I want. So I'm probably gonna go back in and either do another coat to, one, differentiate their pants a little bit, or I'm gonna go in with a smaller brush this time actually and do a little bit of spot washing just to emphasize some of those creases. Because like one of the things that I personally really like about these models, and just honestly, if any miniature company does this well, I just immediately am more gravitated towards it. If they have a good understanding of how fabric works and how that should like actually move across the form of a model, it immediately makes me go, yes, I would love these miniatures, please. Because then like it just looks a little bit more natural, even if it's a high fantasy or sci-fi product, which is one of the things that I really do like about these models is I feel like their understanding of fabric is really top. I especially like the boots, like just some of those nice folds that you see in the boots, we'll get painting them here soon, are just lovely. All right, you are actually the blue's not fully dry. I need to put a little bit, where's my like detail brush? Ah, here it is. There's like a little crevasse that I noticed that doesn't have some paint. So I'm gonna slide some in there real delicately. There we go. Sometimes like around the knee elements on these models, you just lose paint and then it looks really awkward. Yeah, actually, see, I needed to go a little bit more because I don't even think I had finished filling it off. And the same thing on this side, actually. Let's see. There we go. Now on this model, I am going to take a little bit more effort to clean up the blue over anything that I want to be brown because those are going to make a really muddy, ugly color tone. But on the guys with the lighter color, especially with how pale Agorist Dune actually is, I'm not gonna bother probably cleaning them up that much, like unless it just pooled especially heavily and so it ends up being like a much darker brown. But generally, I just tend to leave it because it doesn't really matter. Especially if you're going with something else, brown or gray or black, especially over top. Especially if you're using Black Legion, because that is such a deep, deep black color tone. Not Black Legion, is that the new one called? Yes, I did say it correctly. Ha! I randomly know some of the information that I end up keeping in my head that I feel like is really irrelevant ends up being, well, I mean, I'm a content creator, so it ends up being very relevant, but it's weird how much I have to keep in my head sometimes. All right, I'm gonna switch to a slightly, no, I don't need to switch to the smaller brush yet, actually. What I am gonna do though, is I'm going to, yeah, I need to do a tiny, tiny bit of cleanup on this guy. And then we're gonna get to painting some of their shoes. And for that, I'm going to stick with Gargak Sewer, which I really want to comment on the name every time I have to say it because it really upsets me, but I'm gonna stop because I think I have commented on it every time. And you guys are probably annoyed with it every time I bring it up because it's repetitive. Let's get rid of some of this blue on his pants or on his shoes. I'm not gonna bother cleaning up the blue on the metal portions because the blue will just blend fine into the gray that we'll put there later. Not at all worried about it. Especially if we go kind of dark with it, which I might end up doing. I'm gonna get rid of some of this on his, I'm holding it like an idiot. There we go. Okay, so this is the one problem that I sometimes have. I forget that I can put the handle below the cap. So then I just start holding it by the cap as you guys just saw me doing. I am not. Are you going to be using the new orc skin method I tried, or am I going to be doing the one from a year or two ago? You know what? We'll demonstrate both in this stream. If we get to the skin, I imagine we'll get to the skin, but I was just planning on using Mantis Warrior Green because, let me show it there. Yeah, I was planning on just using Mantis Warrior Green because I love it. It's what I did on him. But honestly, I do actually want to see what Mantis Warrior Green does with... Ooh, I want to see what Mantis Warrior Green does with my old Plague Bearer's flesh underneath, because I wonder if that's going to make it even a little bit more olivey, but still being like a bright olive. And I don't, like, every time I see orcs go, like, I've seen orcs flesh lean into an olive color tone, but it ends up being this very, like, diluted, almost like grayish olive color tone, and I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, I will admit, I am really not a huge fan of that. They look so dusty then, and not in a pleasant way, and not even in a, like, grimdark sort of way. Like, they just kind of look uninteresting to me sometimes, and so I really don't like doing that, but a deeper olive would be kind of pretty, and I think that's how you could get it. Like, leaning almost towards how Orc Flesh, like that new base color tone that they came out with for the Age of Sigmar models, almost kind of leaning towards that color palette. I am going to clean up this little patch because I do think I want to do it in a brown. Like, I think I'm going to actually make it in Agros Dune just to make it seem like he, no, I'm going to do it in the red. I decided I think I was going to do it in red, so let's do it in that. Which I definitely will want to clean this up because I don't want it to look purple. Even though purple is obviously the best color, guys. I also think that flesh needs a little bit more with Wraithbone. Noticing a little bit of some crevices where I missed some stuff. All right, I think he's not at all finished, but I think we're good enough on the boots, at least. We're not going to be quite painting the loincloth yet. And I can do a little bit more cleanup later. So let's move on to our Gargak Sewer. Ooh, okay. For Jason Monroe asks if I am for MJF or Moxley at full gear. This is a really hard choice because I'm actually quite torn between it, because on one hand, I really like how Moxley has completely just stepped up, come in every time that he's needed to kind of carry the company whenever disaster has sort of flown or they've had like a problem with whatever's been going on with the AEW championship because of like just everything that Punk did. But like, On the other hand, though, I really want to see MJF with the belt. And I definitely think he can beat Mox, even in a non-cheating way. I feel like MJF has kind of proven that. He's just such a good wrestler. And it's insane how young he is, like with how much he's been doing. So I think ultimately I want it to be MJF. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think that that's where they're leaning? Because I almost feel like that's where they're leaning. I feel like they have to. I feel like they have to give it to him. Also, I kind of want Moxley to have his vacation. Like, I feel bad that the man keeps having his, like, vacations interrupted and him having to come back and be like, well, I guess I got this belt right now, because all of their storylines end up leading to either unfortunate injury or just drama. And it's ridiculous. All right, we're gonna swap him because he needs to dry a little bit more. Ooh, let's close. Make sure you close your paints when you're done with them. I do that all the time where I forget. And it really frustrates the Chaos Cultist because then we sometimes have dried out paints. I've been a lot better about it, but occasionally it still does happen. Thankfully, contrast just kind of like becomes more densely pigmented because the medium evaporates a little bit more, but then it's still a different consistency than what you're used to, so don't let it happen. All right, we're gonna start working on, let me move a little bit over here. We're gonna start working on his boots here. I'm gonna avoid that bottom like seam sole of the boot because I'm going to do that in a bit of gray just for a little bit more detail, but I'm already really liking how this is turning out. It's a nice bold color of brown. And as you can tell, like the lighter browns that we had there, there's no consequence. You can't even tell. I don't even know if you really even saw them previously, but they're minimal and you can't even tell that they were there. So just really don't worry about them. Hello, Carl. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Do let me know if you have any questions, or just let me know what you're working on in the chat. If you're working on anything. And that goes for anybody. If anybody has some projects they're working on and they want to talk about it, share them with me, please. Please do. I love hearing about what you guys are working on. As much as I love sharing what I'm working on. We got a little bit paint needed there. And I completely missed that section. There we go. Practicing good brush control there. That's why I got a little quiet. Sorry about that. I didn't want to make sure that I didn't accidentally completely blob dark brown paint into my lighter browns that I just painted. I'm feeling good about that side. I'm going to move over to the other. Nice, cleaning mold lines and working on some Black Templar. I do love the Black Templar. Have you seen the Joy Toy Black Templar action figures? That I don't remember if they're now available or if they're part of the upcoming, because good lord, they have so many and their launch is completely all over the place for a lot of them, but holy cow, I want them. They look so cool. They come with bikes. I feel like it's appropriate. I love it. I think they came with bikes. Was it the Black Templar that came with bikes? I know they had some White Scars with bikes too, but there's like multiple that come with bikes. And I swear the Black Templar did. But now I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly. Ooh, nice. What are you drawing? I have not done illustration or drawing or anything like that in ages. Although I have sketched up a little bit for my pseudo plan for my Lego build. That's slightly different drawing. Oh my god, me too. If I had an infinite just cash flow, I would be buying every single Joy Toy figure they had. There's so many of them and they're all so good. It's really annoying because one of my local toy stores actually has some of them in stock, and it's the Black Legion. And while they're on like my list to get, but they're actually kind of low on the list to get. Especially the two that they have in stock. But like, it's always still so tempting because you just don't see them in stores very often. So it's always really cool. And I'm like, oh. And then they're just so expensive. They're just way too expensive. So I've only ever bought the Krieg. Like I have some, but I made sure it was a collection that was like, they only did so many. And I don't think they're going to be doing any more Krieg's Guardsmen. Like they'll probably do more Guardsmen, but probably not specifically the Krieg's Guardsmen. And I'm really hopeful that that's like, I just have a complete set and I don't have to buy more of them because it's very satisfying to have like that complete set. I'm gonna concentrate for a minute, guys, while I work on getting some of this brown paint down here. So if I go a little quiet, I do apologize. Also trying to make sure that you guys can still see what I'm doing while I focus so hard. Intense painting! It's really not actually that intense, it's just kind of awkward angles. And I refuse to lift the model off of the base for some reason. It would just be easier if I did this. I don't recommend holding your models very often, but sometimes if you just gotta like get it into an angle that is a little bit more helpful for you to actually get the color where you want it, without splattering it everywhere, then do it, man. Just pull the model off and then put it back on when you're done. It's no big deal. You just don't want to do this for like extended periods of times because then your hand will just cramp like crazy. Which is what I used to do when I first started. I would just like hold them. I'd be holding the base and it'd be like, it'd be really awkward. I guess, hold on, maybe be down. It'd be like this and it'd just be really painful and my hands would get all cramped. Which was not good because I was drawing a lot back then too because I was in college and that's what I went to school for. And my wrists, my poor wrists, they hurt so much. Oh, I don't need to put you on that way. I want to put you on this way. There you go, bud. All right, and then we've got to move on to the next guy. Keep working on our shoes. So for orc skin, I use a couple of different greens, Gina. I use, right now, my go-to is Mantis Warrior Green because it gives me a really bright, sort of yellow-green undercoat, but in the shadows, when it settles, it actually turns into much more of a candy apple green color tone, which I absolutely love. Like my orcs are bright and bold and I love them. However, there is another recipe that I used to use that I still really, really like. And what it consists of is doing first a coating of Plague Bearer's flesh contrast paint over all of the flesh. Then after you're done with that, you come back in with a Bielton green shade, which gives you a, like it's a really nice sort of deep green color tone, but over top the Plague Bearer's flesh, it gives you that yellow undertone, but then it settles darker green into the shadows. So it kind of does the same thing as this, but it takes a little bit more paint and it gives you a little bit more of a bluish green in your shadows than say this does. If that looked really awkward because he was falling dramatically off his base, he's actually not glued down. This is not the correct size for him. When I was doing this, I realized that I actually didn't have the correct size. Where did I get these? My brain is like completely blanking on where I got these. Shoot. Gamer's Grass. They are the Gamer's Grass ready-made bases. Sorry, my brain completely fried on that and I just could not remember the name Gamer's Grass. So I got them from there and I did not, these were not originally part of my list. And when I bought all of my bases, I was like, okay, I'm gonna stick it really strictly to these guys in Kromlech with their awesomeness of sending me things. Ruined that. And so now I gotta go and order more bases, but I just haven't done it yet. Although now that I'm actually painting the other boys, I really should. Why are you standing on the base? You need to be this way, friend. We are working on your shoes and we need you down so that I can paint you easier and they can see. All right, there we go. Oh, and then sorry, I didn't finish actually telling you about the second, or my first orc flesh. After you're done with the BL Ton green shade and you've let that dry thoroughly, what I also have come back in and done in the past is I've used Yarrrrrrgh yellow predominantly, but you can really pick whatever sort of brighter yellow tone that you want. And to enhance that yellow color tone in the flesh, I go back in and dry brush very lightly just over top the most raised edges of the flesh tone to give it a little bit more of a yellow undertone. So if you want like a little bit more of a dramatic, I guess, transition, do that. If you want something that's just very quick, easy, and gives you basically the same effect with slightly less work, because you could easily just still do the dry brush over top the Mantis Warrior green if you really wanted to pop that yellow a bit more. But you could also just leave it. It's really up to you. But those are the two things that I do predominantly. I have in the past also done a yellow and a green orc flesh, just because frankly, fungus grows in a lot of different colors and shades, and I think it's silly that orcs are restricted purely to like a green flesh tone. So I was like, screw it, my orcs are gonna have a slightly different color because they're from a different, you know, system, and the fungus that grows there also impacted their flesh tone as they spored out and grew. And so I went with an orange flesh tone, and then I did just a pure yellow flesh tone, which was predominantly done, I think, with the Yanden yellow for the yellow flesh tone. And then I still did the Yarrrrrgh yellow wash, or the dry brush over top to just emphasize that a bit more. And then the orange was purely very thin down so I could layer it a couple times, Griffhound orange, because I really love that particular color. Oh, I love seeing turquoise orcs. Somebody was recently showing me some like turquoise orcs that they were working on, and they are delightful. You know what? That would be great for a seafaring orc. Maybe I should do one of these guys in turquoise. I might think about that. I have no idea if we're gonna actually get to the flesh tone today. Oh, I have my boy who I broke, so I can actually, I'll save him for a turquoise boy at some point, because I have some ideas for like what colors I would use. Tell me, which specific turquoise do you use? Do you like do a contrast color, or are you doing a traditional base and then highlight with maybe a shade or a wash over top of that, or maybe before you do the highlight? But tell me about it. I'd love to know. I don't know. I am bad about countries and their names and where they are, so I will probably not guess where you are from, friend. Hari Kenji. Hari Kenj? I'm hoping I pronounced your name right. I probably didn't, and I apologize. I am terrible about that. The Aquamarines, I love it. Oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, the Commandos would be a perfect, like, sort of, because that's such a stealthy color. Like, I feel like turquoise ends up getting used in like stealth color tones a lot. So, oh, great choice. I love that. I love people are playing with other orc colors rather than just the green. As much as I do love me some green boys, like, it is so cool to see the massive, just like vibrant color tones of orc flesh out there nowadays. I don't know why sometimes, like back in the day, color palettes seemed like they felt so much more restrictive. I think it's just because GW was like the only source telling us how to paint our paints, or how to paint our miniatures rather. And so like they had a specific like way they wanted them to look for their aesthetics. And so they just always taught that as well, because why make your artists do two different styles when you're just when you want this very specific look for your pieces. And it's so like, it's just really cool that like the internet has opened that up and shown you, hey, you can paint miniatures however the heck you want. Have fun with it, that's what it's meant for, right? Ah, okay. I'm glad you like the Zero Fighter one. I really like that one too. I'm going to, my hope is that the next model, like scale model that I build like that, I actually can do in a multi-part episode and actually paint while I build it to get to actually experience that. Because so far I've only been building them and not painting them alongside. But because I have the airbrush now and I have a little bit of just a better understanding of how they assemble, I feel like I could probably do both and still get it done in a cool and exciting way. Oh, this color, like, it's such a good color. I love this brown tone. It just works so well. Like, snakebite leather, just to talk about contrast paints for a moment. Snakebite leather ends up drying so shiny sometimes. I really don't like it. I know leathers can sometimes be shiny, so I get why, but none of the other contrast paints do that. So it ends up just standing out so, I don't know, to me, really ugly sometimes against certain colors, and it just turned me completely off from using it. So I'm just so glad that I actually have a deeper brown that I can use that's not wildwood, because wildwood is sometimes too dark for leathers. I really feel like that's more of a dirt and tree color tone. So it's just nice having this color. Thank you. Thank the GW. Sometimes you do me right. Most of the time not, but sometimes you do me right. Is that a little bit? Just a little white. Okay, I think his pants or his shoes are good. They look good to me. Let's paint our blue boy. Nice! Yeah, I want to grab the Cadia box. I've been really thinking about it because I really like the Imperial Guard forces. Like, I just like having a big Imperial Guard army, and I have a small collection already, and I've had like, I really want to get it. I think it's just a cool little set. I feel like I'm enjoying where it seems like the Codex is leaning. It does, I am going to be curious to see like the full thing and actually what's going on with the arc. I know there's like drama right now. Yeah, you always, like, I agree with you. I completely agree with you that Snakebite looks fine with a matte varnish over top of it. But yeah, it does come out shiny straight out of the pot, and it's so weird to me. I don't know if it's because I'm not mixing it well enough, if that's intended, why it's only that one that does it, because it bothers me that it does. Like, it'd be so much less problematic to me and probably even acceptable if it just wasn't the only one that really seemed to do it. Every other contrast paint in my experience really ends up with a like satin finish, if not a matte finish. And it's like, why would this one be glossy? I know it's leather, but like, I don't know. It just seems to defeat, ooh, don't fall. Brace him a little bit. He was sliding off the putty. You guys, yeah, you guys can see still fine. I do worry sometimes that I like wildly pull my hands away and then I am not letting you guys actually see what you're here to see, which is me working on miniatures and painting. Cool. That Clint Eastwood was there, or is there. Very nice. We're gonna have to do a little bit of cleanup on this boot because he's got this nice little dangly tooth that I've now accidentally painted all brown because it's right up against his shoe. But that's okay. It probably won't be too bad. We've got a little bit of ugly pooling here. Let me just pull that paint a little bit and fix that. Never feel like that you can't, while the paint especially is still wet, especially with contrast, that you can't rework it and pull it away and, you know, save some ugly pooling. Because like it can do some like awkward things sometimes. It can get a little heavy if you let it, but realistically, if you're just being mindful of it and, you know, paying attention to what you're doing, you can really catch most of that. Although, oh my gosh, when I film sometimes I don't catch it and then I'll just look at something and go, oh, well, I hope I can make that work. Let me just throw another layer on to try to blend that in, because that has definitely happened on some capes in the past. and it was chromatic for me. You guys never see that, of course, because it's not a big deal, but like, sometimes I get real sad. Because I messed something up, or I feel like I messed something up, and then I'm like, no, I can fix this. I just wasn't paying attention when I really should have been. I think that's now that side fully painted. There's like this, like, I can't tell if it's an actual. Yes, okay, it is an actual spot. Sometimes the shininess of the wet contrast paint, when I'm looking at it, makes it kind of look like there might be like a gap in where I've painted and where there's primer still just showing. And other times it's not at all that, and it's just a reflection of the wet paint. But it's really hard to tell. Ooh, winter fatigues would be really cool. Are you gonna do like an actual winter camo pattern? Or are you planning on doing just more of a like, you know, their pants are like a light gray or something and they've got like light blues and grays amongst their color palette, but it's not specifically a camo pattern. I've actually found like camo patterns, I thought they were gonna be a lot more difficult than they were, but I feel like if you just, I don't know, kind of like look at existing patterns. That's what I did, at least. I just went online, I found an existing pattern that I like, and I just tried to replicate it, even if it was sloppier. And then I just tried to also use similar colors that I saw used, because, you know, camo's meant to protect you for a reason. With the colors that they choose, why not mimic them as much as possible, right? Bring some of that realism into the game. And there's some really cool looking, like, winter-themed camo, I feel like, out there in regards to designs, with a lot of really nice blues, whites, and grays. So I am intrigued, and I hope that it goes super well. Oh, very good. Well, thank you for the comment. That is super helpful. Anybody that comments, thank you guys so much, because that really does aid the channel. The algorithm likes that. It also, you know, I like talking to you guys and seeing what you're doing and everything, so I do try to look at them all, even if I don't respond to them all. And let you know with like a little like or heart that I have seen them and I've read them, because I really enjoy seeing what you guys are doing. That goes for across any of my social medias, whether it's here on YouTube, whether you're sharing stuff on Instagram or Facebook. I do look at it all and try to respond to most of it if I can, or at minimum, like giving it a little like, because I appreciate the engagement, and also I'm all about that hobby. I just want to know what you guys are doing. This is looking really good. We're not even like a portion of the way really through it. Colors just come together so well. Although I'm having a little bit of an awkward time getting in here. There we go. I'm feeling good about where that is. I think I'm gonna start working on some of the gray. I'm gonna do the gray, or do I wanna start moving on? Oh, I need to paint his loincloth. So we're gonna do that. But I actually think after that, I am going to move on to the flesh tone, because we're at a good point for that. I completely missed a whole portion of his leg. All right, I don't know. Okay, yeah, you guys can see it. Okay, you see that? Hold on. There we go. Stop moving. All right, you guys see that like white line there? So there's, my finger's pointing at his knee, but if you look above it, now my finger's pointing at the line. I just completely missed an entire stripe of color because I clearly didn't rotate him well enough. I do this all of the time, like all of the time. It drives me nuts. When I was working on the knight, there was like a portion of the undercarriage that I just put 0 gray paint on, and I didn't notice it for quite a while. I don't know, I don't think it was visible on camera, thankfully. But it definitely happened, and I was just like, Angela, what are you doing? All right, I'm going to try to get this and let you guys see, but I am gonna go with my smaller brush. There we go. There we go. That is better. I also don't know if I missed this, but there we go. Okay, it's a little bit around the other knee piece that he, the knee guard that also just didn't have any blue paint. Okay, we're gonna let him dry. Set him aside, and we're going to work on some of our other boys. And actually, I need to do a little bit of cleanup before I get to the flesh tone. So let's break back out some wraith bones. This is all dry. Yes, it is. I've never used a wet palette. I would assume that you could just, I don't know. I don't actually want to give you advice on that because I actually don't know how to clean a wet palette sponge. I would assume you would just use a little bit of soap and water, but I would very much recommend looking up somebody else who actually uses one and checking with them because I've never used one. Like, I think I lied. I've used one once. I tried it out. It was fine. I didn't have a problem with it, but because I work with contrast paint, once I put contrast paint onto the palette, I didn't really see a benefit. Like, I didn't need the contrast paint to remain that wet and that fluid as often as I feel like that is more beneficial for, say, like Wraithbone or other base color tones where it might be more, you know, useful to actually have a wet palette. But because I don't work on long-term projects where I need that much paint left over, and I almost never mix my paints, I've never actually felt like the wet palette was beneficial to me personally. So please definitely look somebody else up who actually knows what they're talking about and has used one before you actually just clean it, because I don't know. And I just want to be very honest with that of like, I'm not sure. Don't trust my advice. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of cleanup on both the flesh, and while I'm at it, I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup on like the boots and everything because we'll want to put some gray paint later. But next, I think I'm gonna move on to actually painting some beautiful orky flesh tones. Maybe I will use a teal. I don't know, I haven't decided if I'm gonna use a teal color tone yet, but I'm definitely gonna do my two different orc flesh greens. So I'll do first the Mantis Warrior. Actually, I'll do my old one. I'll do the Plague Bearer's Flesh with Bealton Shade, and then we'll do a dry brush of yellow over top that if we feel like we need to, because it's a really pretty color tone still. Like, I do like it, and a lot of my boys are like that, so there's no hurt in adding a few more. But then the other one we will definitely just be doing our Mantis Green, Mantis Warrior Green color tone, which is sort of my go-to right now, and I absolutely love. But we want to make sure that his flesh is beautifully coated so that we're not getting any weird pull away. His neck, I think, needs a little bit more. I didn't get my colors there very well. Grooves. Also gonna take a small water break. Okay, so you can just use a little bit of dish soap and water. That was what I was hoping, that it would much be that straightforward, but I didn't want to like suggest that because I've never actually used it. Got it. That makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, so dish soap does seem to be the general consensus. Thank you guys for answering that, because I genuinely was not sure. And I'm glad to know that it is pretty straightforward. Wow, I just like totally did not get primer into this little crevice around his barrel on his back. Oh, you know what I really hope Kromlech does, or somebody does, maybe even Games Workshop could do this. I doubt they will, but it'd be nice. Is I just want, with the Rogue Trader video game that's coming out from Owlcat, I really want some Rogue Trader models. Like, I know we have a few because of Blackstone Fortress and everything, and don't get me wrong, it's great. But like, I'd love some additional ones. like even some new ones. Hell, even if they just want to give us that generic like beehive lady hair woman, because that's all they seem to be doing for their female characters right now if they're not sisters. I would still take that because I love rogue traders. I think they're so cool. And the pirates kind of reminded me of that because like they end up being like these piratey orcs end up being really eclectic and everything, and so I just gives me that vibes and I want it. All right, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know how you guys are feeling. Hopefully you're feeling well, but I'm feeling pretty good about this. I think I'm going to set. Well, I was gonna set them aside, but then I noticed this glaring. I partially cleaned it up, but then it needs another coat. There we go. Oh, I do also want to hit these little dots because even though I want these to be gray, because this is a much darker brown color tone over top of it, unlike the lighter color that we did here, you'll notice I haven't like cleaned up those little straps, but I'm gonna paint them a different color. These little baubles, I do actually want to be gray, and the gray is gonna end up being almost black looking if I were to leave that dark brown over top of it, obviously, as you guys can probably guess. So I am gonna go in and clean that up so that I don't have that problem and that the gray distinctly stands out as gray. Because I think if it ends up being too dark looking, it's just gonna get lost amongst the brown paint anyways. I think there's a little bauble there. Yes, there is. It's kind of hard to tell because there's a little bit on a seam that I didn't super clean up well, but that's fine, it's fine. Yeah, there's one right there. Delicate dabbing. That's what I feel like cleanup always ends up being. It's just a bunch of like delicate little dabs of here and there to get your paint cleaned up. I just noticed that his shoe has a very tiny heel on it, and that's very cute. Oh, maybe it's just that I didn't finish fully cleaning it up. I made it look like he has a heel on his shoe because I didn't finish like filing it flat enough, I guess. But it works, he stands fine, so that was really what I was checking for. Once they stand fine, I'm like, cool, don't need to do anything else. And by standing fine, I mean that they're stable and not gonna fall over by like, you know, wind blowing them or something. I realize that could sound a little weird. I think now he's pretty well cleaned up. Let me check this other boy's arms. Yes, this guy needs a little bit as well. I want to refresh my acrylic. Oh my god, yes, a proper kill team like for an Inquisitor group would be amazing. And I'm fine with it having like some assassins and other like inquisitional characters and stuff in there, but I do want it to have like a rogue trader, an inquisitor, all sorts of things. That'd be so cool. And I feel like that is definitely the place where they would do it, because GW really does seem to be putting like their, hey, we want to please the fans, but we don't want to actually give them like a full army or like a full range of new models for this particular specific faction within our grander faction. So here's what we're gonna give you. You'll take it or leave it and you'll like it. And that's because like the commandos, I feel like were that way with the orcs. You got that with the Kriegsguardsmen in the Kill Team box set. You got that even with, no, the Gonskos, were the Gonskos in Kill Team? Or was that a separate box? I now can't remember. Like, I don't remember now. Making sure this guy's arms are all cleaned up. He actually looks a little light in the face. So I'm gonna boost that, because like his ears, for example, don't look like I fully got them. Okay, it's feeling better. And then his chest needs a smidge. This boy has some abs, dang. It's always always really funny to me when you just like look down and there's like orc abs in your face. Don't mind me, I'm just amusing myself. Did I get everything? Is that feeling that? No, no. I feel like there's a little bit more in this pit that needs a little bit more paint there. Spread that around. That. I am currently, because Gina asked, I am currently live streaming every Tuesday from usually starting at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, for about 2 hours until about 5 o'clock, because then I go and I make myself dinner. But I'm also planning on streaming going forward, hopefully on Saturdays as well, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and I think that's 1 p.m. Eastern time. I don't remember specifically. I think it's 3 hours ahead of us, so I think that'd be correct, but don't quote me on that. I just know specifically it's 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm going to be doing Let's Play live streams there. So doing like video game stuff. I can't remember off the top of my head the name of the game that I'm playing this week, but I'm actually really excited by it because it's from Obsidian. And I love Obsidian stuff. And it looks really, really cool. And then actually, I did want to call out, I am going to be live streaming this Friday for the Warhammer Fest announcement that is happening, because there is going to be one, I believe, this Friday. So in lieu of a normal hobby video, we're going to be doing the live stream. I will have more announcements about that probably up tomorrow, just to be letting you guys know. But yeah, I'm really excited about it because I want to see, you know, what GW has to offer us. I feel like this was kind of an impromptu or slightly unexpected Warhammer Fest, so I'm curious what exactly they're going to be showcasing specifically, especially since they've already done their holiday like product rollout. So I mean, I guess they could just be continuing to hype up more of what's coming next year, but I feel like it's a smidge early because they already have done that a little bit. I don't know. I'm curious what we're gonna get and how either cool or lame it could potentially be. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure that's like a huge difference if you're in Ireland. I think the 10 a.m. one is definitely better for the European viewers for sure. Because I think that's a little earlier in the day for you guys, but yeah, I think sometimes this one is a little harder to reach with the 3 p.m. Or is it the other way around? Now I'm not sure. I don't know how time works. I am not a follower of Zinch. We are a follower of Slaanesh and Nurgle here, as I'm sure many of you are well aware. Okay, I'm feeling, I think, good about that. I'm just gonna shove like a bit of paint up underneath his chin because I don't know if I've already done that when I was doing my previous check of paints, but I'm feeling like that's pretty good. So we're gonna set him aside, and I think we can now actually get started on our green skin. So we're gonna put this boy back onto, I just popped his arm off. I am breaking all of my minis. Excuse me while I do surgery on this orc. Alright, no big deal. Clearly, actually, before I do that, before I put new glue on, let me be smart about this and grab some files so that I can smooth down any excess paint, or not paint, but glue that was there. Because clearly, I didn't get a strong enough hold when I first did this. All right, that feels better. Oh, we got a whole bunch of glue here. Impromptu miniature building. Welcome to the new stream. As I fix my mistake because I pressed too hard on a piece that I really was looking at earlier, I will admit. I think this is the guy I was looking at going, ooh, I really did not glue that piece on well. I really just didn't. That's a bad connection point. And lo and behold, it was a bad connection point. So I'm just going to grind this down a little bit more. There's some fresh resin to attach to. Although I do think the Zap-A-Gat would probably attach to itself fine, but I don't want to risk it breaking off again. That would be my luck. All right, let's go ahead and get this guy reattached. And also, I don't think I really glued that in, so that might help. Take him off. All right, there we go. We're just gonna press that on, hopefully a little bit better than we did the first time, because whoops. Let me know if you guys have ever had that happen, because I definitely have had it happen more times than I honestly probably should admit. Got it, got it. Exactly. We need to do some repairs. Pull out the surgical equipment. What is the medic? I don't actually remember off the top of my head what the medic orc is called, because isn't he? It's not the weird boy. That's the caster. What is the medic actually called? Did one of you guys already? Is it called a Doc Choppa? Is that what they're called, or are they called something else? Because we definitely need one. Although hopefully, I think this is fixed, but I'm gonna set him just over there so that he can dry thoroughly before I press on him again like a fool. All right. Let's go ahead and grab one of these other lads then. We'll go with this boy. We'll gently, by using his back, which is fully solidly attached to himself. Good Lord. I'm waiting for me to now break a piece off of every single one of these models, because I don't know if, for those of you that were late, so I had this boy too that I was also going to be painting, but as I was pressing him onto this piece like this, I definitely snapped off this tiny little pipe piece of his, so I need to glue that back on, but it's a little bit more delicate than I want to do on screen, so I just kind of set him aside. But I've now broken 2 of these miniatures because I am a klutz. And if you caught my last hobby live stream, you'll know that I really am, because I threw multiple of Duncan's paints just straight out of my hand as I was shaking them, because I just wasn't holding onto them hard enough and they just flew wildly. All right, I am going to, because we have been going for about an hour and 20 minutes, I am going to take a small break and I will be right back with you guys. Lord Krabby, thank you so much for the $10. You are amazing. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, I'm back. I stretched a little bit. I was getting a little bit cramped from sitting here for so long and not moving too much, but I'm feeling a lot better now. So I need to grab a couple colors that I haven't used in a while, and I did not prep them. So hold on, we need, oh my God, you guys, look how separated my Plague Bearer's flesh is. Oh, no, we'll shake that, don't worry. I also need a bit of Bielton Green Shade, and if I decide I want to, I've got my yellow tone for that as well. Okay, let's rinse our brush, shake the crap out of this paint. Good Lord. Hello, James. Welcome. No, definitely not over. We still have about like 40 minutes or so to go. I will be wrapping up around 5 o'clock. We'll see how hungry I am. Honestly, it's really a matter of how hungry I am and how much I want dinner. But yeah, no, we're not stopping anytime soon. Just had to take a small break because I needed to stretch. All right, I haven't done this in so long. I'm very excited, like weirdly excited. My file just snapped to my my Gamer's Grass Redgrass Games. Sorry, words hard. They are difficult. It just snapped to my handle, and I completely hate when that happens because it startles me every time because it almost always whacks my hand in some way, not in a painful way, but just in a like suddenly there's metal and it's sort of sharp against it. It is very silly. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Let's get this Bielton, or not Bielton, Plague Bearer's Flesh, which still is a freaking lovely color. Oh, look at it. Because like this gives me kind of that olive color I was talking about earlier in the stream. For those of you that missed it, we were talking about these various shades, and I think like a really deep olive would be very cool on an orc. Maybe I should just like, I do want to try this with my mantis green over top, but I am going to do my classic orc flesh because somebody in chat, I think it was Gina, but if it wasn't Gina, then whoever you were that were asking about it, you were awesome for asking. Because yeah, we were going over what my old orc flesh recipe was and what my new one is, and I'm really liking, I really like both. Like frankly, I really, really enjoy both. Yes, these are miniatures from Kromlech. You can check them out on their website. I have left my affiliates link down below, so for any of you that are wanting to take advantage of that and help support the channel, as well as getting a 5% discount on your purchase, make sure to go through my affiliate link and also use the code that I've left in the video's description. This will be on both the video on YouTube later, as well as the live stream description right now. I believe it should be accessible. And if not, you can find it on my link tree, which is definitely in every video description ever on the channel, so you can definitely find it. But I love these miniatures. Like, I think they're great. They have some Blood Bowl ones. I was talking about this earlier, and I really want to pick some of them up because I think they're really cool. I want to get some Skaven specifically because I want to fill out my team with some alt models. And I just think like the Skaven are so cute. I'm really liking this. It's been a while since I've done this, and I forgot how much I actually like it. For as much as I am constantly praising Mantis Warrior Green for being just a slightly faster variation of this, but it is different. Like there is a difference. It's just they're very similar, and because I am always going for that really bright, you know, apple green, like fresh apple green color, both accomplish the same effect. And so I've just been doing the one that's only takes one paint, but honestly, I do like the depth that this gets because it does add a little bit more depth. There's a little bit more range that you get out of the colors. I am avoiding his the eye sock. Oh my God, I did that perfectly. This is not going to maintain that way, but do you guys see? I don't know if you can tell, but basically there is a perfect white dot left where his eye should be, although I think a little bit of color is now filled into it as I've said that. So never mind, just kidding. I wasn't as clean as I thought I was. Curse the fluidity of this paint sometimes. But honestly, that is why I really like it. Oh, I haven't actually looked at their bits for the tanks. I've only ever looked at some of their bits for like honestly basing. Like I've picked up some of their mushrooms before. I love the little mushroom caps that they make. And then I've also got some of their like alternate orc heads. Before I actually had these models, I did have some of the Ork Pirates, like their old line of Ork Pirate heads. I don't know if I think they still make those ones. I can't imagine why they wouldn't. But they were really cool. I really liked them. I have not invested in any resin printing, no. I see that MOS 6510 models asked that, and I don't. I'm a little hesitant to get into 3D printing of any type, whether it be resin or the filaments. I think that's the main difference. But the main reason that I haven't is just because I want the technology to advance a little bit more before I really go hard into it, because I'm all about speed, and 3D printing takes a while, especially if you are doing like bigger prints from my understanding. And at this point, I think I'd rather just pay somebody else to do that process for me, and all I'm waiting on is the shipping to arrive. So I don't know, I just haven't seen, for me personally, like the huge value in it. But it's something I've been keeping an eye on because I find it fascinating, and I definitely don't know what it's gonna end up meaning for both miniatures long-term, like, you know, companies like Games Workshop and other places, and also companies like Lego or other plastic toy companies where you could eventually end up printing figures or other stuff. Like, who knows? It's very, very cool. Do you have like a shirt on underneath your vest? Is that what's happening? Or is that just like a... No, that's just, I think, my seam. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just noticing actually that I've got a little bit of a gap on this arm too, so I need to be careful with this boy and make sure I don't press on his arm too hard and do the exact same thing that I just did to my previous orc. I am brutal on these poor boys. All right. Yeah, that's the other thing. That is completely the other thing, is like the cleanup process and just all of that with resin printing has also not been a huge appeal to me. And so I've not, like, even these had quite a bit of cleanup with like little bits of fleck and mold lines and all sorts of things, which I don't mind so much. Like, I understand there's just inevitably going to be some of that, and I'm not going to hold that against anybody. But the more that it can be minimized, the more that that process can be streamlined before I, you know, invest in getting a printer myself. Honestly, the happier I am, because that means that it's had more time for people to experiment with it. And the great thing is at least when I do eventually get one, because I probably assume that I will, unless it just like completely falls out as a product, which I don't imagine it's going to. There'll be plenty of stuff for me to grab up and try out, because there'll be so many STLs and everything out there. Yeah, 3D printing is definitely not something I've checked into too much personally yet. Now, if somebody out there who's watching happens to own a 3D printing company and is interested, hit me up in my email and we'll chat. Because I'm not opposed to that. I'm really enjoying going back to this kind of classic method of mine. It's been a lot of fun, honestly. Hope you guys have been enjoying the stream. I know that I definitely have. I do have a garage. I don't know how good the ventilation in it is though. But I also have a space upstairs that has like huge glass doors that open up. So I feel like I could, if I did have a 3D printer, that could be a viable place for it because I think I could get good ventilation there. But yeah, that is another concern, is ventilation for sure with 3D printing. And one of the reasons that I've sort of held off on it. All right, we're gonna paint his glorious abs. It is funny just watching the paint. I don't know how well you guys can see it because it's just a small little detail, but it is funny to watch the like contrast paint just sort of settle into the ab lines and make them stand out even more prominently. I don't know why that amuses me so much, it just really does. I think it's partially because it's kind of a belly shirt, like a belly vest that he's wearing, or like a cutoff. And so I know it's probably just because he looted it off of a human and it doesn't properly fit him because he's a big, chunky orc. But it cracks me up. I appreciate the exposure. All right, I actually am feeling great about, I think I've actually got everything underneath his chin and around his neck and everything. So I have not at all finished. Angela, look at this hand. Look at this completely unpainted hand. Do you guys not see this? I can't believe you would let me possibly move on from this orc without painting his glorious hand holding a Chuda? Is this just a standard Chuda? It probably is. Yes, let the contrast paints sink in. Absorb them into your flesh. Become one with the contrast paints. I've definitely had some bath bombs that have looked like contrast paint colors, and that has been my joke. Privately to myself. All right. I always like to paint, so when I do this orc flesh recipe, just to call this out as something specific, because I think it's a nice detail that you can easily do and it doesn't take a whole lot of extra effort. But when you're painting the orc's hands, I do like to distinguish their nail color tone from the rest of their flesh tone because, I mean, when you look at our fingers, they tend to be a little bit different color tone from our normal skin flesh. So like, it's the same thing. That was a weird way to put that. However, my point is that what I do with this particular recipe is I let the Plague Bearer flesh coat everything, including the nails, but then when I get to the Bielton green, that's when I don't let it go over the nails, and that way the nails remain that sort of like more olive green color tone, and I just think it looks really nice, and sort of makes sense to me as the lighter under the nail skin color that you would see on an orc, in the same way that humans have that like pinkier, whitier color tone in our nails. I'm just gonna shove this color in between these little chains because I can clean them up later. And I wanna make sure that his flesh isn't like randomly splotchy underneath. Even though I am gonna try to pull some of the color back out just so that it doesn't like actually pull too heavily into those grooves of the chain, because occasionally that can like really mess up your color tone later on. It can create this awkward muddiness because it ends up being so darn dark. And like not in the good way, like not in the way that you would want, say like a black tone or a gray tone or a dark brown tone to actually look. It just gets like kind of gross and undistinguishable. All right, I am liking that. I feel now like he's fine. Nope. I'm gonna take him off his base for a second and get this other hand, because apparently I'm just forgetting his hands. That's because they're holding weapons and I'm not really paying attention to it. Oh, well, thank you, Zach. I don't know what you sent, but thank you. And I'm looking forward to figuring it out. And then also, no, So the bath bombs aren't gray. I mean, although that would be kind of interesting. I've never seen a gray bath bomb. I thought I had one that was going to be gray, and it turned out to not be gray at all. It ended up being like this really lovely lavender color, actually. But the bomb like itself was this like, honestly, if I had to describe it as a paint tone, it was administratum gray. So that like kind of light blue gray color tone, not quite as pale as Gray Seer, but not as dark as like Mechanicus. What was I doing? I found something that I hadn't painted. This hand, there we go. I completely got sidetracked by checking the chat. How dare you guys distract me from the hobby? I don't know why I'm really over dramatic about it. I just really like to be over dramatic. Yeah, inks are great to work with too. It's one of the reasons I like contrast, is it kind of flows in the same way that inks do, which is just how I personally expect paint to behave. I don't know about other people, but when I go into painting, like there's a certain expectation that I have for how the paint is going to flow, and contrast does it the proper way. Oh, you have snow falling? I'm so jealous. I haven't seen snow in ages. It's one of the disadvantages of living in California, but like, we don't get a whole lot of snow here, which is nice because like the weather tends to be nice and warm and everything. But on the other hand, I don't get to make snow angels or build snowmen or go skiing, which I've never actually done before. But you know, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to do. I know there's probably like resorts, but I also just want to go sledding. Like I miss sledding. When I was a kid, we used to have, where I lived, we had like this really awesome hill near the school. And so we would get like pretty decent amounts of snow, like nothing huge, because nothing like what like say the like New England area does. But you know, enough, like 8 inches or so, and enough to sled on. And it was a blast. It was also sometimes terrifying because there were certain sections of the hill that were a little bit steeper than others. And so like I was kind of young and I went on that when I maybe shouldn't have, and I didn't hurt myself or anything, but I definitely flew off of the sled prior to actually like getting to the bottom of the hill and rolled a bit. I didn't go back down it for a while. I went down the like shallower like baby path because I was not thrilled by that experience. I am going to, you're not the boy who broke. So while I wait for the I keep calling Plaguebearer Flesh Bielton Green. I just really want to move on to that step clearly. While I let this guy dry, because I want the contrast paint to fully be dry in those seams. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to this boy, and we're going to paint him in my new contrast color for orcs, which is just using the lovely Mantis Warrior Green. And bam, it's immediately the color that I prefer my orcs to be, a bright Mountain Dew colored green, and I love it. However, on one of the other boys, I am actually gonna do this color over top the Plaguebearer's Flesh. And I'm gonna do a second layer of the Plaguebearer's Flesh on that orc, because I really want that olivey color to shine through, because I wanna see if I can push this into a really, really bright olive, as opposed to the more like apple green that I normally go for. Because as much as I love that, I like the idea of experimenting with different greens and blues in my orc flesh to mix them in amongst like the oranges and yellow boys that I've got already, and then just to add them to the green guys that I've got, which is predominantly what I have. But it's fun to play with those colors. Oh, I bet there's lots of sledding in Michigan. I miss snow. Which is probably, like, I'd probably actually end up in snow, to be fair, and I'd probably immediately hate it because I freeze. Like, I just get so cold these days, and I think if I was actually, like, I'd either need to be super bundled, like, just ridiculously bundled, probably to the point where it was, you know... Do you remember, like, in cartoons when or, like, old shows in, like, the 90s and stuff, when they would, like, over-bundle the kids in, like, sweaters because the parents were just like super concerned. There was like a Campbell's soup commercial that did that, and then like he melted out of a snowman, and he was also like super bundled, and that's what I would need. I would need that ultra bundling. So I want to go snowmobiling. I have not been snowmobiling in ages. I remember really enjoying it. Ah, already I love how good his hand looks. What do you guys think? I mean, obviously he's not done, but like you see how they can be very similar. You can go in the same direction. I'm definitely gonna might put a second coat on him too. He's looking a little pale, even for what I've done in the past. Like I might have overwatered my Plague Bearer's flesh when it was not fully necessary. I just really want this green to settle into all the recesses very boldly. But I don't want it to pool so much that it's like making this really awkward line, what you're seeing here. So I do want to make sure that you're just like constantly moving paint around until it's, you know, in a position in a way that you like it and you actually want it. Make the paint do what you want. Don't let it control you. Control it! I don't know why I'm being really hyperly dramatic. I think it's just because I'm a little tired, honestly. But I'm hoping you guys are enjoying it. Yeah, I definitely think I'm gonna put another one on him. He does look kind of pale. Can I see? I can't really see your neck there, so let's just in here. I actually just realized I haven't actually put this color on my palette. I just have been dipping it straight out of the pot. And while that is fine, it's kind of tedious to go back into it. So let me just get some color down. Like this one, I'm really not thinning at all. Because I know sometimes in the comments of my videos, I get asked like, are you thinning your paints? And yes, sometimes, and most of the time I am. But there are certain colors where I actually do kind of want it to build up a little bit of a deeper pooling shadow. And so I won't dilute it at all, but I will pull some of that color back off. Like if it's getting too heavy. Like I noticed, for example, in his pit right here, which is not too big of a deal because realistically you're not gonna see it from like a normal angle, but it was pooling a little heavily in a way that I wasn't liking specifically. You wanna get around here to his hand. I'm gonna take him off. Now, in this case, what I'm gonna end up doing is like, I'll pull a little bit of the green over his nails, but I'm gonna try to pull it mostly actually back off so that I get a little of the same effect that I've got with the Plague Bearer's flesh going, but it's not quite the same. And then what I'll end up doing is probably putting, if I don't just paint completely back over it and putting snakebite, or not snakebite, sorry, I looked at snakebite leather on my shelf as I was saying that, skeleton horde. I will probably put skeleton horde over top of it just to, again, make it look a little bit different and then give it that kind of like, maybe his nails have gone a little jaundiced, because it'll end up being a little bit of a brown, yellowy, green color tone, and probably not what you want, but like it really works for the orcs. There we go. I think that is the hand pretty well taken. Oh God! All right, so this is a great thing. So I just accidentally got a whole big glob of green on his pants. The nice thing is you can actually just, with a clean brush, you got to get your paint off. As long as the other color is dry, you can actually just dab it back up and almost get no staining. You have to be quick about it. Don't panic too much. Make sure you clean your brush thoroughly before you do this. My goodness, my cat punctuated that with his eagerness. I think he's getting hungry. But you definitely want to make sure you have a clean brush, but you can salvage that. You just got to make sure that you catch it, because otherwise it will dry and then you're kind of SOL. But it's fixable, not to worry. I don't know how close Aspen is to California. I am not good at geography. I'm not the person to ask for that. I'm just gonna check on chat really quick because I see a few more things came in. Thank you. I agree. The green is so good. Oh, remember the Slay the Darkness is coming out. I thought it was coming out a little sooner than that, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm actually really excited. I just randomly got sent, and I need to figure out who actually sent it to me. But I got the old Disciples of Tzeentch for the Underworld set, which I think was from like season 1. And it's one that I missed previously. So the fact that like somebody got it for me, I'm really excited for. It's gonna be awesome. All right. Ooh. Everything's fine. I like put my water down, and I swear the screen flashed for a second, and I was very concerned. All right, I'm gonna get him. I'm actually not gonna get him back on his base because I need to get his abs, which are covered by a skull of a man who I assume he has murdered. All right, there we go. Keep just dabbing, a little bit of dabbing. And then go up into his chin. Yeah, this is just really good. I don't know, I keep fluctuating between which one I actually prefer. Like, I do think because of just the speed at which this mantis green just gets done, I do genuinely think I prefer it. But there is something nice about my classic orc flesh, and I'm going to be able to get back to that actually in just a second. Because his face needs to get painted, and I think that's about it. Let me ask you guys, when you're painting orcs, do you give them like slightly different lip color tones because they've got like sometimes this really obvious like bottom lip, especially in some of the sculpts, or do you just have it be the same like green orc flesh tone that you know paint the rest of the model in? I like to personally, like, I started adding a little bit of like a red tone, and you probably saw it on my orc bust that I did from Kromlech not too long ago, if you watched that video, where I ended up putting like Vulpus pink on there. I really like the effect, but I don't know how common that actually is for, and the same thing with like the fingernails. Like, do you guys go back in and actually bother to do a separate fingernail color, or do you just leave it? Oh, okay, I see. You're just not gonna have it done till January. Well, that's fine, man. Go at your own pace. Like, that's the beautiful thing about the hobby is realistically, you can go at whatever pace that you want to because it's your army and you are going to know when you cannot have time to work on it. And so just move forward when you want to and just keep at it. Like, that is the important thing, is never stop painting, because then, you know, I mean, you can, obviously, if you're having like you need a break or you just don't want to do it right now, you absolutely can. But like, I guess the real thing that I'm trying to get at is if it's something you love, don't let anything prevent you from doing it, especially if it ends up being something that is a stress reliever for you, or just, you know, gives you a break from the other stuff going on in your life, because that's personally what I use hobby for. I mean, it's a little weird, I guess, for me now, because hobby is kind of my life, but I like it that way. Like, I really do. It's cool because all I get to do is I get to paint miniatures, and I'm building Legos now, and like I'm building like scale models, and it's awesome. And I want everybody to be able to experience some level of that in their life because it's freaking cool. So don't worry about going at your own pace. Never stop painting. Exactly. See, that's kind of what I do, is I kind of have been picking and choosing it. I completely agree with you, Cordia. As I will sometimes pick and choose. Like on the bust, I did it because it's a bust and it's a single character. And I definitely do it on some of my like war bosses and such. But I haven't done it on all of, say, like the troop choices and stuff. Although Occasionally I do, because then I end up doing it on some of the ones I paint for you guys on the channel, and then I'm like, well, I've done it on one of them. I guess I have to do it on all of them for consistency's sake, which is really actually not true. You can kind of just go with it however you want, right? Do I have everything painted on him? I think. Are you guys noticing anything missing? Maybe a smidge. Yeah, right in there. Okay, that looks better. But I think I'm good on him, so I'm gonna set him aside. If we didn't... Gentlemen, I would like to direct you yet again to this hand, which I have not painted. Why do I keep missing their hands? What is wrong with me? I don't know what's happening. I feel like I normally don't miss their hands this consistently, but for some reason I'm just like, are they holding something? And then I'll paint it later. I don't know. I would always recommend priming your models, even if you think that, unless it's kind of like what, some board game companies do nowadays, where they've pre-undercoated it for you in the sense that, it almost looks like it's slap chopped usually. But basically, like, they'll have grade it and then they'll have dry brush some color over top. Unless it looks like that, I would always recommend priming your models, even if they look like they're in a primer color tone already. I even sometimes do that for, like, honestly, the WizKid models, because I found sometimes the paint doesn't always behave like I expect it to over top them, and I don't know if that's because of a release agent or the finish of their primer or what's going on with it, but it sometimes behaves a little odd. So, like, I always just double check to make sure that, like, they're properly primed. Yes, I am. They are getting a little too handsy and I'm having a mental block. That's exactly what's happening. I genuinely don't understand why I keep forgetting their hands. Like, it's a very obvious element, right? And I just am completely overlooking it, more so than I feel like I ever have in the past before. It's because I'm distracted by talking to you guys. I'm gonna blame you for being so cool and distracting me. All right. Okay, that might actually be painted now. We've hit it from all the angles. Make sure to get his little thumb. It's important. It allows him to hold things. And yes. No. There's this side of his chest. Okay, this is gonna be a little, I'm actually gonna switch to a smaller brush because I need to get into this, like, little area next to the skull on the other side, and I really don't want to get too much green on his pants that I've already painted. So let me get a little bit more paint. Yes. Oh, I would also love to know, and you guys don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but, like, when you guys find out about the streams, are you finding out about it through Twitter? Are you finding out about it from my Instagram story or Facebook posts? Or are you finding out about it just because YouTube is notifying you? The reason I ask is I'm trying to figure out, like, where the main avenue people are coming in from so that I can, like, focus that and make sure that I am definitely getting the word out from those angles over any other place, because that's where people are coming in from. So please do let me know in either the comments on YouTube later on if you're watching this after the stream has happened, or in the chat currently, because I would love, like, that's just very insightful information for me. Thank you, Lord Krabby. I think I said that right? Yes. We're getting his little belly. Nope. I have way overgreened that. Hold on, I need to pull some paint back out. And then I need to randomly dab in between these teeth. All of the teeth. I do think that's like one of my favorite like orc versions of words is just teeth, because it's like a child trying to pronounce teeth. Obviously, but it just really, really amuses me. Got his ear and noticed that there was a little... Man, I feel like I've been really bad about filling in the gaps on this guy. I'm like looking all over the place and just going, oh, well, I've missed paint there, and I've missed paint there, and I've missed paint there. Go. I can't tell if that is his flesh or if it's like a cable, so I'm just gonna paint it green and hope. I think it's his flesh. Yes. Okay. Now I think we're good, although that's a little heavy. There we go. Okay. Happy with that. Let's do a second coat of Plague Bearer's flesh very quickly onto this guy. Just something... I thought for a second, because of the way that I was holding this bottle, that I had not closed it fully, and I just started to shake, and I thought I was gonna have paint everywhere. Thankfully, I was a good girl, and I actually closed this bottle fully, but I was very nervous for a second. I'm gonna actually shake it with it closed. That is important. Don't shake them when they're open. And then we want the brush to wet it a little bit, and we're just gonna... Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think I had my brush a little too wet the last time, straight out of the pot, and it was too thin. So let's go ahead and give this pour. Yes, that is more the color tone I was looking for. I'm just gonna kind of be a little heavy with this and pull it back off, but I really want to deepen that olive color, especially around his neck. For some reason, that was just looking exceptionally pale. I'm immediately feeling much better about this. I think it's gonna work a lot more smoothly with our BL-Ton wash I'm gonna do here in a second after it's dried. What time is it? Okay, we just hit 5. Okay, so the last thing I'm gonna do is the BL-Ton wash. I will need to let this dry a smidge, but I think that is where we're going to wrap it up. I am getting a little hungry, so I think I'm gonna go make dinner here soon, but I do want to finish this. I also want to give a reminder that this Friday, and I'll have more details coming soon, but I am going to be live streaming this Friday to cover the Warhammer Fest announcements, because I believe there is a tournament happening in New Mexico, and I believe that GW plans on doing a live stream that day, so I'm going to do a watch along. If you guys want to check that out, be sure to subscribe to the channel to make sure that you don't miss the notification of when we go live, but also pay attention to my social medias and the community page when I make the announcement of when that will be happening. The only reason I'm not specifically saying right now is because I actually don't remember when the Warhammer Fest event itself is happening, and I can't do the quick maths in my head to figure out what time that would be for me here. But I'll get that announced very, very shortly. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I have no idea what it's actually going to be about, because as I mentioned a little bit early in the stream, if you happen to miss it, it seems odd to me that they're doing something so close to the holidays when they just released their holiday stuff, and we are a couple of months out from like the new year, and they already have kind of a lineup of what's coming with the new year. So I don't know, it feels... I just don't know what it's going to be focused on. Maybe it's Black Library. Maybe this is going to end up being like a Black Library specific thing. Oh, Zach, thank you so much for the tip. Just hopped in because I searched Warhammer and put the live filter on. What a great find. Thank you so much. That's so cool. Welcome. I hope you are enjoying it. I'm sorry we're going to end very soon, but I am going to finish up this orc's flesh before we go. I was really focused on what I was talking about, and I realized I hadn't looked at the chat in a second, so I'm glad I looked up. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this, you guys. I do love the guard. Thank you. I'm really glad that you guys are enjoying this and that you guys are having fun with the hobby live streams. It's been something that Chaos Cultist and I have talked about for a really long time. And I'm glad that we actually have the space and like setup for it now because I really have enjoyed it. All right, let's get the rest of this guy finished with his second coat. Yeah, that's looking good. Now I do need to let him dry while I do that, and it may take a moment. Do you guys, I think I'm gonna do a second coat on him. I think I got this actually a little thin too, and that's where we'll end it. If he's not ready, because I don't know how quickly he's gonna dry. I kind of went heavy with that, but I don't want to end before we at least get one of the orcs fully finished. So I'm gonna break back out my manta screen and finish this up. That is probably, actually, you're right, Jackson. That is probably what they're gonna do. They're gonna be like, we know that you have a lot going on this Christmas, so save your money, do this, and buy the things at the end of the year. That is probably, yeah, it probably is just gonna be a hype train of like, hey, this is coming out in January. Make sure that you're spending, you know, all of your Christmas cash on it. I mean, there's some good stuff, but I will admit, like, until we get a new edition, I kind of have just been staying away a little bit from, like, playing 40K, because I really just want to see where they're going, and I feel like things have just gotten really outrageous with, like, power creep and just codex creep happening. It's just been crazy. Oh, yeah, I definitely needed a second coat on this. I need to thin it a little bit, spread it around, but yes. I want a little bit more of that greeny color tone. Especially in some of those recesses. Just needs to happen. Why is this bicep so pale? It's just because it pulls off and... ah, love it. Okay, we also need to enhance his face because again, that got a little thin. And I really want to emphasize the really cool, like just details Kromlech puts into their little faces, all those little grooves and lines of wear and tear as they've been raging across the galaxy. Wah! We haven't wah'd yet, I realize. Wah! All right, everybody wah in the chat, please. Everybody needs to wah in the chat. I demand wahs in the chat while I finish painting this green flesh. Also, I love Tiger Stripe camo. So James, I'm very excited to see that. Also, do you notice that I'm not forgetting his hands this time? It's because they're already painted green and I can see them really clearly. I do think what happens sometimes is I just get like primer blindness and I stop noticing what I haven't painted that I need to if it's still in primer color, just because it all starts to blend together in one giant gray mass. Watch me as I awkwardly dab this brush into a tiny crevasse. You sometimes feel like that's what tutorials are when you're watching them. Like occasionally I'm like worried, I'm like, what if it just looks like I'm just randomly going do 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 into like this random crevice as I'm painting. Hopefully it's still informative. I actually think, like, for me, I really like seeing how somebody else moves their brush because sometimes it gives you a better idea of like what they actually mean when they're speaking, because they don't always do the best job. Like, I don't always think that I necessarily do the best job of describing like how I'm holding my brush or where I'm moving it or how I'm using it specifically. So I hope like some of the visuals that we give you really help illustrate like what I'm doing a little bit better than sometimes I can describe. Thank you for all of the wahs in chat. You guys are awesome and I appreciate you. All right, this boy is not dried yet. So what I'm going to do is more than likely is next week, we're gonna pick back up with our orcs unless I just find something else that's super, super cool to paint. But I do think I actually want to continue working on these if you guys are cool with that. And we will continue this next time. But I am going to call it because I've been going for a couple hours now. I'm a little tired and I want dinner. So thank you guys so much for being here. I'm gonna run through my chat one more time just to make sure that I haven't missed anything super vital past all of the glorious WAAAAGHH that you guys have had in there as I lean dramatically off screen as I try to read because clearly I need to like make the screen a little bit larger. To the orc who asked me not to be so rough. Never. All right. Yes, I am going to head out. You guys have been amazing. I really, really appreciate you guys being here. To everybody on YouTube who's watching this later, thank you guys for being here as well. I do really appreciate you guys checking out the stream afterwards. It does help the channel and it just lets me know that you guys are enjoying this. And we will continue to try to do more of these going forward. Like I said, the plan right now is to stream on Tuesdays starting at 3 p.m. and then Saturdays starting at 10 a.m. These are both in Pacific Standard Time because that's where I am located. You guys can do your conversions yourself to figure out when that is for you if you're not in Pacific Standard Time. And yeah, the Tuesday one will continue to be hobby. The Saturday one is going to be a Let's Play, but this Friday, I'm going to be doing a watch-along live stream as Warhammer Fest announces some cool new stuff for us. So make sure to join me for that, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.